Hey, Guru Nation, thank you so much for checking us out. It's my name is Dan Sfera. I got Dr. Daniel Fox on. This is the episode you've all been waiting for because Dr. Fox is such an interesting dude. He's been managing big sites. All right, the first podcast we did, he talked a little bit about that, but he decided to go out on his own. Land of Lincoln Research, CRPN network. Those two things simultaneously, even though there's a lot of synergistic elements between the two, and we'll get into it. But we're gonna find out what makes an employee become an entrepreneur. And I know you're a psychology fan, Dr. Fox. Maybe we start with that. Did you ever see yourself running your own site, like owning your own site?
Always a possibility. Whenever you're looking at this, whenever you're in the field, and whenever you hear the stories about people wanting to go out and run their own sites, there's always this dream, that seems like it's a vision. And I thought that it was possible. Uh, I didn't think that it would be possible at this rate, but things just tend to happen.
Yeah. What was it that sealed the deal for you? Like, I mean, you don't have to get into specifics if I understand if you don't want to, but
No.
you must have had seeds planted at some point, and then over time you started thinking, okay, how do I actually make this? Do I want to make this happen? And then when you say yes, then how do I make it happen? I'm assuming, right?
Yes, it kind of builded into itself. As I was an administrator at a large clinic, of course, in the Midwest, I had access to all of the doctors. I saw all of the patients come through, and it was frustrating sometimes because although we're in a very successful clinic and these doctors are literally some of the best in the country, we have doctors right here in Illinois who there are like only 5 doctors in the nation who do a certain procedure. So the talent is there, the patients are there, and the trials just aren't landing. That was part of it. It's literally, I see a community of patients here who really need the help. They have the talent. We have everything we need except for a dedicated research infrastructure in the community. Most of the places around here are just kind of like a hobby or a side job to the local clinic or the hospital. And since they are not a priority to the hospital, they're focused more on care. Research doesn't really get the attention that it needs to be as good as it can be. That was part of it. Your question on what just made you snap, like, okay, this is time to do. My family knows that I'm in research, and we're most of my family is in rural Midwest, so Missouri, Illinois, Iowa, kind of a location. And since they know I'm in research, they always call. I get about 3 to 6 calls a year. Hey, Daniel, I have this friend. They got this bad diagnosis. Could you help them out? That's pretty much how the conversation goes. I have a conversation with them. I talk to them, and turns out they have this diagnosis that cannot be treated in their area. And as a result, I help them get on clinicaltrials.gov. We try to find the trials that they need, and those trials just so happen to be 5 hours away from the closest point of care, from the
Mm.
closest site. So here's your options in rural America. You can either go to your doctor and not receive treatment, and the doctor literally just looks at you and says, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You can take a 5 hour trip to some place for a clinical trial, or you can suffer and die.
Mm.
So for the past 3 years, these people, they don't have the money, they can't get off time off work to take that kind of a commute to travel. There were clinical trials out there, and 3 phone calls and 6 months later, they're all dead. So
Wow.
that that is what triggered it, is it was literally, I am tired of seeing in my community people suffering and dying when I know for a fact in this industry that there's things we can do to help them. It's not convenient. There are way too many barriers for these people to access the care that they need. So that's when I thought, you know what? I've got CRPN, I'm part of nonprofits for autism. I have all these other things, but this is a major unmet community need, and my neighbors are hurting. And so as a result, I resigned from my position at Springfield at a clinic.
Hmm.
Um, and I started my own IRO right here in central Illinois, land of Lincoln Clinical Research. For those of you who know Springfield, Illinois, Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, we have the National Museum. Lincoln is buried here in his tomb. Land of Lincoln is the the logo of this area, and it only makes sense that we can create a regional IRO that can bring in the best possible research into rural America where people really need it. I've heard other people say rural America, the Midwest, those flyover states, it's a barren wasteland for research there. And I've witnessed it time and time again. These people don't have the help they need. The doctors are specialists, but they don't want to be part of research. All of these different things come together to where it's just really a poor population in the research community.
So because of that, I mean, didn't that ever um disincentivize you to pursue this as a business because it was going to be harder to get doctors? I mean, I know in a place like Yuma, when it comes to certain specialists, there's only a few options, and if they say no, there is no business unless I can convince someone else to move here. So I'm trying to get a lay of the land, I guess, for what your community looks like as far as care options. Forget about research, just care options in general for various specialties.
As far as care options go, it's huge. I mean, I worked at the second largest multi-specialty clinic. We had one of two specialized retinal surgeons in the entire state. I mean, we had the very first hand transplant performed right here in Illinois, right across from the street.
Wow,
Orthopedics, and I mean, the talent is there. The thing about Springfield is it draws in St. Louis, Chicago, and Indianapolis talent all into a centralized hub. So the talent, the skill, and the patient population are there. It's just a matter of making that convenient for those specialists to be part of research.
I see. And are you looking to leverage technology of any sort to make this happen? Or are you still doing it the traditional way? Hey, doctor, here's our site, come out here. Or are you partnered with the doctors in their offices?
A little bit of everything. So you've got the good old traditional brick and mortar. Land of Lincoln Clinical Research offers all of the innovative e-techs. That's one of the whole points of running it is we can actually reinvest in the infrastructure for the best possible research. It's not just a hobby. Yes, very much so. Leveraging the technology, becoming partners with the solution providers in the community. There are solution providers right now as we speak that are building up to the point where, and I've said this for a while, but when you integrate research into that of healthcare, you break down the barriers, you give the specialists an opportunity to access research, not participate. I mean, they will participate, but when you make it easy for them and you integrate it into their practice to where they really don't notice a difference other than to take care of their patient, they're going to be more likely to enroll their patients. There is technology building up behind that and around it, and CRPN and Land of Lincoln are both very integrated in that technology.
And so this must have been like a scary decision for you, and you're still in the early stages of Land of Lincoln. What are you doing to mitigate your risks? One of the first things they teach you in business school is, hey, know what your risks are, as at least as close to as accurate as you can about what your risks are. Know how to mitigate them beforehand. What have you done to mitigate your risks as far as starting this site and getting those first few studies like up and running?
The very first thing that I did was actually based off of your advice. I don't remember if you remember telling me that, but you know, expect it to take a lot longer. Financially, we mitigated it by making sure that we had at least a year of reserves to live off of, at
Mm.
least.
mm,
So we're living off of reserves and we're being very conservative. We're doing that. Um, Making good friends and partners, not necessarily the financial partners. The financial partners will come, that will happen. But in, finding those people who are willing to help you, finding those people who know that you're doing this for the right reason, they're more likely to want to work with you. Uh, I One way of mitigating risks, I guess, is just to be genuine, making sure that this is exactly something that you want to do, that even if it fails, you're going to look back and say, I'm really glad I did that.
mm,
That's that's on a mental health mitigation, just to make sure that you're prepared for success or failure.
mhm,
Um, Making sure that you have all of your accountability and your legal documents in place. Very first thing that any person who ever wants to build a site should do is they should write their SOP manual, have it have a controlled document system. You have to, because that SOP manual is what you are going to be demonstrating to the industry that you're not just like a one person band, you're a legitimate site, that you've got your stuff together,
mhm.
and it's not easy to do.
How difficult was it to get your first PI to agree to work with you?
We're still in that process.
Still in the process. So
Still in the process.
you've
Yeah,
identified what, how many? Like,
I've got I've got 5 PIs across all specialties in discussions.
wow,
And we're talking derm, allergy, vascular surgery, infectious disease. I've got them all in discussions. Uh,
wow, good for you.
IROs, Springfield is a weird place in healthcare and research in general because, as I said, everyone has kind of like their own little hobby healthcare place, but there's no comprehensive one. Nobody knows what an IRO is around here, and it takes some time to change that culture. Most of the time, you're probably going to be able to work with the private sectors first. The universities, they have their click, and they're not in as much of a hurry to have innovation. And then once the private people come in, then the hospitals will catch wind of it and think about it. And then finally, the academia, they might eventually come around, but I'm not sure if they're ever really interested in that. But it, it takes a long time to build sponsor base, patient base, physician base, and infrastructure at the same time. I'm close. I have PIs. I actually have some PIs in Chicago that are interested in talking to me, and that's where the technology can come in. As I said, sometimes it's really tricky on this level because you've got the specialist, you've got the talent, but you don't have the either the experience in research or
Hmm.
the interest in research. So now we really have to think about how we want to run this as a site.
That's the hardest part is that like the initial experience and getting the doctor to buy in. It's the hardest thing you need to do is find your PI. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, it's one of the first things you need to do because without that, you can't get studies yet. I mean, there's no way you're applying for a study. You might be in a unique situation because of CRPN to
Mhm.
where you know of the studies before you may have a doctor, but most site owners, they don't own a site network as well or beforehand. So you're uniquely positioned. I guess that's a good leverage for you when starting these conversations with doctors because the same chicken and the egg paradox happens when you have the discussions with the doctors. Well, if you're a new site, I don't want to talk to you about research till you bring me a study. Well, I
Mhm.
can't bring you a study until I have a PI. So you're just
Mhm.
stuck in this limbo, and you could bypass that because of CRPN, which makes a
Mhm.
lot of sense actually now that I'm kind of deconstructing your business model and some of the resources you have. Oh, it was well played. Well played, Dr.
Yep.
Fox.
And it's a cross-functional revenue stream. CRPN's already making some revenue,
Mm,
which makes it easier for CRPN to be able to reinvest in a local site.
mm,
That way I can cross collaborate. So even if the site doesn't have its sponsors yet, if we don't have trials yet, CRPN can build up the infrastructure to buy that eReg or to buy that CTMS software. And the more offerings we have at Land of Lincoln, the more competitive we can become in our clinical trials.
Are you similar to Brad in the sense of, you know what, let's find large health systems here and approach them because that large health system, most likely they're not doing research. They'll connect you with all the specialists you need. See, me here in Yuma, the large health system does do research, but they only do oncology and emergency medicine, but they will
Mm,
not let you touch, they will not let their physicians that they bought the outpatient clinics work with anyone else. You know, they're very restrictive contracts. But if you
mhm.
can get in with them, you know, that's one school of thought like Brad. He's proven that that's a successful business model. You get in with one group, you're set for the rest of your life. And then you get my school of thought where, well, I'd rather work with the entrepreneurial PIs, mom and
Mhm.
pop. They're anti-establishment too, and they're more likely to be business partners with me than, you know, this large health system. Where on that spectrum are you?
I think, well, it's a little bit of both. I think given my position, it's possible I can get in with some of the bigger guys. It is possible. It's the doctors, some of the first ones I'm talking to, they're more of those entrepreneurs. One of them, very experienced researcher for years in research, was actually let go by the same place that I resigned from. So we have something in
Ah,
common.
I see.
So we have an opportunity to forge a really good relationship there. I think again, CRPN puts me in a very different position because now it's not just me going up to these large institutions and saying, I'm an IRO. Would you like me to, like to do research with me? It's, hey, I'm an IRO and I'm also a part of a giant national network. I can have a continuous pipeline of trials. I have a sponsor network of people who can come in. I can be very productive. I can bring you trials that you don't have access to, even in your pet research department. That it's a very synergetic relationship. Synergistic.
Have you ever been a coordinator?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. I
I
was
assume so.
coordinator. Yep. And then I was a coordinator for a short spurt during postdoc. And then once I did the coordination, then I started being a monitor and I audited the military sites.
Hmm, interesting. Okay, so you have, are you prepared to get back into the coordinating game?
Yep. That was part of the conversation with my wife is, if you're gonna do this, you gotta get back into coordination.
You
Yep.
gotta do
I'm
it,
like,
man.
I will do whatever it takes to get these patients their trials. It's a mission.
It's worth it to do it right. Like, especially now with this shortage. I mean, you know, most people by now have heard of care access and kind of like they kind of dropped the ball. I mean, the details are still emerging, but it's not so easy to just hire relatively new research coordinators or no
Yeah.
experience at all coordinators and say, hey, you know, have at it. Like patient comes in tomorrow at 9. It's
Mhm.
not that easy. Even when
No.
I trained my staff, like I thought I could get away. You know, my most senior coordinator is 9 months into it. I trained her for like 3 months, one on one. I noticed when I'm not there, it's just not as smooth. And then if I'm
Hmm.
chronically not there, you know, it turns into like bad habits. And so I'm back now. I'm back in the trenches. And
Got to get in there.
yeah, man.
I mean, there's a reason why the ACRPs and the SOCRs of the world don't even allow for certification for 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, you really need to get in there. Which, by the way, it's been a long time since I've coordinated. I was actually thinking about asking you about CRC, uh, joining CRC, and I
CRC
could get
Academy.
a,
Yeah, we got to
yeah.
talk to Monica,
I'll go
get you
talk to
in there,
Monica. I'll
get
I'll
you
get
in
in
there.
there. That's my first investment is to dust it all off and to actually get some formal training.
You're very systematic, so you would do a good job. I'm very scattered, you know, like I could focus when I need to, but you definitely have the makings of like a good coordinator. But either way, your future employees respect you more knowing that
Mhm.
you've done it. Because I
Yep.
know some coordinators work for sites where their manager, their direct reports, they've never done their job. There's like no respect, and that's where the animosity comes in. Like, oh, why are you paying me this much? You don't even know if I quit right now, you wouldn't know how to do this and
Hmm.
that. There's not going to be none of that with you, Dr. Fox. Like, you're going to be in there in the trenches with them.
Hmm. Yes, I'm
There's
glad to.
there's
That's
something
that's
important
probably
about that.
that's one of the best places to ever be. We want to talk about being all patient centric, but seems like the way that our track record goes for this, the career path, it seems like it just goes further and further away from the patients for the more money that you earn. And
Hmm.
it's just it should be the exact opposite. If we're going to be patient centric, that's the most honorable position to be in, is that one where you're looking at the patient in the eyes and you're taking care of them.
Man, helping them fix their e-pros when they break down or when they glitch on them. That's patient centricity. It's not these investor pitch decks of what is patient centricity from people who have never taken care of a patient in their life.
Mhm.
I just find that ironic. But somebody that's
Yeah.
been in this space like you, coordinating, monitoring, running large sites, I think it's going to be interesting to follow your site, Land of Lincoln, and kind
Mhm.
of see how you. And I know you have a podcast. Are you going to
Mhm.
share some of your stories from Land of Lincoln on there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've been doing LinkedIn for a little over a year now, so I've got some good content I can share on there.
Only a
But
year. Only a year.
I started CRPN March of 2022.
Wow. Because you
And
you did
yeah.
come out of nowhere to me,
Hmm.
man. Like, as somebody that's been on LinkedIn since '06, '07, '08, you came out of left field. Like, I just saw you popping up on everyone's post that I respect, like Brad, Joe Dustin. There was this Dr. Fox guy, and I was like, how do I not know this guy? And then who is he? And so that makes more sense though. Like, you were just kind of behind the scenes. You weren't really marketing yourself yet.
But yeah, I've been on LinkedIn for 10 years. I've been
Hmm.
on LinkedIn I had a login for LinkedIn for 10 years, 50 followers maybe, and then I was just kind of looking around, and then caught on to like Note to File podcasts, and I
Mm.
started catching on to clinical research. I think I'm just 1450, so 1,450 followers now. So gone up a
Good
little
for
bit in a
you.
year. So we'll see
Good
how
for
that goes.
you. The networking is the next thing. Like, once you
Hmm.
start getting studies, you'll see like other sites, they're gonna want to network with you. And you're already doing that with CRPN.
Hmm.
Just such a cool the PEC score. Let's just wrap this up with the PEC score because no matter how many interviews I do with you, we have to bring this thing up. It's first of all, it's so anti-establishment. Like, it takes an audacious guy, Daniel, to say, you know what? I'm a site owner. I'm gonna start scoring the sponsors. I still laugh when I tell people this guy gives them a score.
A
Like,
lot.
who
Yeah.
are you, man? What gave you this idea? You just must have gotten so fed up
Hmm.
that you're like, you know what? I'm gonna start holding you by standards as well.
Well, I mean, I'm a scientist, so scientists are all about the data. That's what started. But you're absolutely right. A year, 2 years into working in this industry, constantly seeing everything that you know is wrong happening all of the time as an industry standard, you just get fed up with it. It started out as an internal thing. We need to be able to protect our site. So let's start collecting data. And then finally, I realized, well, we can turn this into a metric. We can turn this into a reporting structure. Why not? Last
Mm,
time we talked, Pact was an operation. It wasn't fully fleshed out. Now Pact is fully live.
yeah.
If you
One
can
of our
go.
oncologists got my friend Dr. Al Jazirely.
Mhm.
I just put him in touch with you over the weekend. You're getting studies sent your
Mhm.
way and
Yeah.
connecting doctors.
Yeah. I'm getting sponsors too. Sponsors
Hmm.
are saying, "Hey, I kind of want to know what my Pact score is. How do sites think of me?" Oh, well, it's funny you should ask that. Well, here's your Pact score. promises, access, choice, and trust. Each of them has a number. Each of them has, the way that sites answer the questions is the way that it is. You're really good at promises, but you suck at access because you don't give sites any options. And this is what they say about you. They don't like the way that you do remittances. Every boom, boom, boom. So it's turning out very well. It's turning into almost like a Transcelerate or like a consulting kind of an
For
opportunity where,
sites, yeah.
yep. Well, and there's a packed score for both now. There's a packed score for sites. I've
Mm.
got I've got sponsors rating sites now.
What are they rating them on? Query, how fast they answer
That's
queries?
that's part of it. Yeah, the promises. If you say you're gonna answer a query within 48 hours, then are you? Do you throw a giant fit every time you don't get your way on a budget? How much can we trust you?
I
Are your
see.
enroll are your feasibilities anywhere near appropriate? So I've got sponsors rating sites, and I've got sites rating sponsors, and I have a database for both, which means that if you put that together, you can theoretically line up the really good sponsors with the really good sites.
They'll be in utopia, like who is John Galt? They'll go on an
Mhm.
island and do research together.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
question, and I have some ratings on you actually. So, if you knew that you were being measured by a sponsor for a straight up measurable accountability, fully transparent, it's not like that black boxed CRO database of
Hmm.
sites that
Hmm.
nobody ever shares.
Hmm.
It can be accessed. Would that motivate you to, I mean, Yuma, to perform Yuma at its best possible rate, knowing that you are constantly being accounted for?
Of course. Certain things like responding to queries.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, what else? Like feasibility would be one.
Mhm. Yep.
Um,
Budget negotiations.
budget negotiation. I let
Yep.
Chris handle that, but yeah.
Yep. Response
Um,
time.
response time, we're good.
Hmm.
If anything, we're weak on answering queries.
Hmm.
Um, mainly because I have new staff and I am telling them the importance of entering the data. Answering
Hmm.
queries is more of a challenge, honestly, and one of the reasons why I'm
Yeah.
there more often on a day-to-day basis. But
Right.
absolutely, it would motivate us
Yeah.
more. It's supposed to motivate us anyways, because the CROs are supposed to share that stuff amongst themselves. But with all the mergers and
Hmm.
consolidations, it's unclear whether that data will continue to
Yeah.
be shared. Like now that Thermo Fisher owns PPD, right?
Yep.
Are they sharing anymore? I mean, I don't think they're
Who
talking
knows?
about it publicly. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then how would you like to go up to a sponsor and say, hey, we have one of the top rated packed scores in the industry. What do you think that's
Yeah.
going to do for the sponsor? And be like, well, you must know your stuff if people are rating you in a good way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's very beneficial to the sites who do good work to have this like accountable metric. It's just like your credit score. If you go buy a car or something, hey, I got a great credit score, got a good rate. It's the same exact thing.
Makes
So
sense.
yeah, if you've got the sponsors and the sites doing that, it's turning out to be very, very good. Everyone's happy because
Mm-hmm.
you've got something to look at that's not the problem. You've got something that's the solution, a bar that you can raise all of the time. So,
Well, this is, yeah, every time I talk to you, it's like such a cool concept that it's not just a concept. I mean, it's a business now that is
mhm,
self-sustainable. So it shows that the market thinks it's cool too. It's more
mhm,
important than whether I think it's cool. The
yeah,
market thinks it's cool.
yeah. I'm enjoying it. You talk to some people and they'll say, I'll be honest with you. You make a score, if you hold someone to a metric, they'll just run you out of town. I've gotten that threat.
Mm,
But I've gotten far more people say thank you. It's about damn time. Why wasn't this done before? I really appreciate it for the transparency, for the opportunity to show that I'm something good, to show that I'm working with someone who's going to be good. It's turning into a very good success story.
that's awesome. Everybody go follow, go connect with Dr. Fox right now. What a good person to be connected to. And he's always posting insightful things on LinkedIn, posts, comments. His inboxes are full of people reaching out. asking him questions, and he's somebody that you're going to see a lot more of on this show. So thank you so much, Dr. Fox, for coming on, and I wish you good luck with Land of Lincoln, and hope to get an update from you soon.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. Thank you. We'll talk soon, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, everybody. Like, subscribe, comment, share, go follow Dr. Fox right now. Take care.
Take care.